Hello, my name is Francis Fox. What do I bring to the table that makes this chat that's later on converted into a podcast? What do I bring to the table that makes this different? We supposedly live in 144 dimensions. Science says we live in 11 to 20, but that's the science that we're familiar with on this planet, that has really not been given full permission to study the other dimensions because of the restrictions when science originally formed, and because of our lack of respect for what other countries and other parts of the world have known for thousands of years, for what other religions have known, where their religion is based on science, a science of observation that is respected and carried on in terms of traditions. Anyway, we don't need to go on about me. What we need to see and look at today is, let's do the map first. I'm a little bit disconcerted. I took a late afternoon nap and I'm not sure where my head went, but it was not a very fun place. So I have not really pulled myself totally together yet. But let's go ahead and look at the map. Now, you remember the map yesterday was really, really, really interesting. Spaceships, galactic protection, Mayan pyramids, Earth movement, but systematic, flowing in half of the United States, not the other half. It was somebody must have worked all night to clear a lot of this, because today this is what the map looks like. Now, it's not showing the galactic protection, but it's not showing a deterioration. This is a spiraling clockwise, which means faith, stimulating the crown chakra. The swastika in Germany, the swastika is really about the chakra system, and it's about whether you're going to stimulate your crown chakra connection to God, connection to sacred, or you're going to stimulate your root chakra, which basically is landing grounded. I believe that the one that they use in Nazism is the one that connects to the sacred, which, let's say, it connects to other dimensions, off planet forces, galactic. And in a sense, that's good, because we live multidimensionally, but we're not in this part of the world. Everything really very much is centered around the physical. The physical is only one of several vehicles that we have. Anyway, we have deciphered. Okay, let's finish it. This says, let go of the past. This map is not about me. I know I need to let go of the past, so I'm not sure what that means. Here you have the pyramids, you have the systematic undulation of earth energies. It's okay. It says here bribes don't work, so there's no business as usual in the United States. Makes sense with everything that's getting revealed. And at the top it says Canada down, which we've been getting consistently, and I really haven't understood. And then it said the ETs control Canada, but not the great ETs. Did you know that? I didn't know that. But the Mayan pyramids are coming up from the Gulf of Mexico, and now it turns out that science says that the ocean floor in the Gulf of America, excuse me, has collapsed. It's collapsing. They don't get it. So there's some kind of a veil in between dimensions that's collapsing, where the Mayan pyramids may be revealed. I've known the people that I work with, the Mantrista movement, we've known for 5, 6, 7 years that there are pyramids in the Gulf of Mexico. That was one of the reasons why that BP oil incident was so disastrous, because it broke a protection that this area had. Okay, so it says, oh, and there it says, let go of the past. I have no idea what that means. I'm so sorry. The fact that I don't know what it means doesn't mean I shouldn't sketch it. It just means I cannot help you with an explanation. But if we hold on to this long enough, and long enough might be a week, we may find out some of this. The thing with Canada and ETs controlling them, it's very interesting. that Trump would have focused on the Gulf of America and insisted that the name change is interesting with the thing with the pyramids, and his, I'm going to say, his lack of respect for Canada has been interesting. And now it would appear, and that is not surprising, that a country would be controlled by ETs because a significant percentage of the population is controlled by ETs. So why not a country? Makes sense. I don't know where we're going with that, but we're not really trying to go anyplace with my sketches. We're trying to get information. And I definitely enfolded in my intention is information that's useful. That information doesn't appear useful this minute, but remember that I work with an expanded lens because that was my training, and I'm trying to get you to expand the lens. Now, one of the biggest mysteries on the planet is the matrix that we're all connected to. And in the movie The Matrix, they have Neo, they have a tube that gets connected to the back of the head. And when they put the tube in, he changes dimensions. Everything changes. And yes, when you change where your consciousness wakes up in, or where you shift more of your consciousness in, everything changes because each dimension you use a different energy body and the rules are different, which is why it would be so important to find out. We already know that you find out where your diseases originate, because the rules in those dimensions are different than the rules in the physical dimension, which is where your physical disease manifests. So you're going to want to know, where did they start? And what are the rules there and how do you work there? The good news is that in the other dimensions, it's so much easier to work. And if you get sick in the other dimensions, which is where you get sick first, taking care of it is so much easier than having to take care of it on the physical body, which is where it's just a manifestation of something that's been going on for a long time. Back to the matrix. You know that I have struggled with two people in the government having to do with mind control. One, which I've known for a long time, which was my handler. And the other one was Adam Schiff. Is that his first name? Interesting that the name is not sticking so well. There are programs. People like me get programmed for many different things, and one of them is to not remember names. Anyway, both of them had strings inserted in me, not just to control me, but to feed off of my energy. That's the matrix. But it's not a theory. That movie was here to, actually, I think I have the exact words. And let's see if I can get it in the language, in English rather than in. It's going to take me a second. Here. Okay. I'm going to read to you what I wrote, and this would have been, not that long ago. No, this is when it was put in Dropbox. Anyway, the movie The Matrix was not science fiction. It was a map, and is a map to our enslavement. That's what I found in terms of me when I have been trying to shake loose of the mind control program. Remote viewer Francis Fops has mapped psychic mindstream implants from Orion to the human liver that are what the movie The Matrix was alluding to. Which that psychic implant from Orion to the back of the liver is a psychic implant that's a tube-like hose that, once implanted into a human, completely changes them. So today I gave an event at 12 noon in which I cut the psychic tube from Orion to the back of the liver. You have that also. So let me tell you how you get to the place of saying, well, maybe that is possible. Many years ago, and I'll try to make this story very short, I was with a friend of mine, and all of a sudden I had a revelation from an ET spirit, whatever. And I said to the person that I was the human that I was with, I said, where in humans is love, goodness? And he went, oh, the heart. I said, okay, where is evil generated in humans? And he went, I don't know. I said, you're not telling me where it's generated. You don't know because it's not generated within humans. It comes from off planet and it has to do with spirits. That was the information I had 30 years ago. Oh, okay, a concept, no problem. And then a couple of years ago, I discovered that we all have a tube, a matrix tube implanted into the back of the liver. How did I know this? And I've told the story before. Everything about Jesus Christ on the cross is a sign, it's a clue, it's a pointing arrow. And the most pointing arrow of them all was the lance that was at Jesus' side when he was on the cross that pierced his liver. So the way my head was trained to think, so what does that mean? Why was it able to pierce the liver, not another place? Jesus was trying to show us that we needed to study the liver because there was something interesting there, which we can call a portal. And that is the portal in the back of the liver that, yes, is a portal to Orion, but there is a tube that connects us to Orion in that portal. And that is the matrix. Okay, so we cut it and we understood that we needed to keep cutting it because it was going to come back. Okay, so what does that tube that comes from Orion give us? Anger, frustration, hatred, wanting to die, wanting to kill, and wanting to eat people. That's one of the energies that comes from Orion into the back of the liver. So, one of the remedies, so I can tell you right now, one of the remedies is to cool down your liver, which is what alternative medicine does. They cool down your liver. You can't have a hot liver. You're going to be sick. Your personality changes. You can cool down your liver without having to go to anybody, and that's by visualizing ice inside your liver. But you visualize it parked in the back, inside your liver, in the back of the liver to cool it down, which means it won't have a resonance with what is coming in from Orion through the matrix connection. Now, that means, what does that mean? I'm not exactly 100% sure what that means. But what it does mean is that the part that you need to be really, the part that's going to make you act out is going to be less hot. So you're going to be less angry, less wanting to kill other people, less wanting to fight. And when we reach a zombie stage, less wanting to eat other people. It's terrible, but that's part of the information I have. And I'm not going to do what the government has always done to us and our doctors, which is not want us to worry our pretty little heads about things and not tell us stuff. I'm going to tell you the stuff, and if you don't believe it, it's okay. Like I say, just park that information there, leave it there, and maybe at one point you'll go, oh, so that was what that was all about. So when I was dealing with my handler 2 or 3 years ago, I was trying to get my family and friends of this my handler to wake up and to understand that there was something going on. I already knew it, and they were like, ugh. So I did this sketch, and this applies to you. This is you. Those light green extensions are string theory manifested, revealed mind strings that you have 72,000 of. And it's true. When we figure out string theory, which we already did, there are no more questions. There's no question as to how my handler was able to keep me under such control and why it was so difficult for me to get out from under him, because I had mind streams of mine inserted into him. And he had a ton of mind streams inserted into me. And I was just dealing with the ones he had inserted in me and not the ones that I had inserted in him. Once I Once that clicked, which was like a week and a half or 10 days ago, oh, okay, so when I'm cutting, I need to make sure I cut what's mine that goes into him. Now, if you read my book, Sex, We Got to Figure This Out, in there is a document from the dolphins that is very shocking, but really interesting about how when you have sex with somebody, you connect with them for 12 years. And you know that many times you've had a relationship and it ends, and then you just can't stop thinking of that person, or you keep being magnetically drawn to them. You can't get away from it. Those are those mind streams. You're still connected. You made a decision. I don't want to be there. I don't want to be with that person. But you still have a mind strings connection to them that take up to 12 years to disconnect. But it's not just sex that connects you, fear connects you. Now, you have 72,000 mind streams, and I'll show it to you in that sketch that I'm always showing you, that one day you're going to demand rather than me having to insist on showing it to you. The body with the chakras, those colored spheres in the center, those extensions in green, there's 72,000, those are mind strings. The fact that mind streams can implant in people and that mind streams are used to control people is the deciphering of the matrix. Figured out the matrix. Now, I said to you the other day that there is somebody in Congress who looks literally like this. That's what the person looks like. That's a scene from the Matrix. And I didn't give the name, and I'm not going to give the name publicly, um, because it's not appropriate now, because I don't have a solution, and that person is not going to accept that that's the reason why they have done so many unethical things. And that's the reason why they can stand there knowing what they know and still lie to our faces, and it's just doesn't bother them because it's not really them. And I think that when somebody's not really them, like when somebody is totally drunk, that's not the moment in which you confront them, because you're not going to get any place. You're going to create issues. So I have withheld that name, because it's not going to help anybody. The one with Adam Schiff and the one with my handler, yes, because I know them. I'm taking care of it. It's my situation. But it turns out it's not just my situation. We have an entire Congress that is suspect. And then we get today the information that Canada is being run by ETs. Now, is that simply a possession issue? What is a possession issue? Interesting. Um, you see that body, all the way on the left is your physical body. When the gold body, which is your spirit that you're seeing on camera, is together with your physical and all the other bodies, that's you. When the physical body dies, you still are you, but you don't have a presence on the physical dimension because you don't have the body that you need to function on the physical dimension, which is the physical. But you can go ahead and get another astral spirit, insert it, remove first the astral spirit of the person that does have a physical body and all the bodies. You remove the astral spirit, which is the essence of the person, their spirit, and you replace it with another astral spirit, and you have a possession issue. But you don't know it when you're looking at the person, because they look at, excuse me, exactly the same. So all of this has to be figured out systematically. Who is a possession? Who's possessed? In which time? What needs to happen is different than who's being controlled by matrix implants. Do they do both? I have no idea, but we better find out really quick. Now, where did the whole thing start with these strings from string theory and matrix implants? What's the basis for all of that? The mind streams that all humans are born with, 72,000 of them. And when string theorists say when you decipher and find the fundamental structure of the universe, which are these strings, some are very thin, like thinner than hair, and some are very thick and wide. When you figure that out according to string theory, you don't there are no more questions. It's all answered. Why? Because those strings and their vibrations are what create reality. And there's so much you can do with the strings, such as insert them in other people. And the whole thing about the insertions being so easy via sex is probably the reasons why all these cults all have these sex issues, because they know that if they can are the words have sex enough with these victims, or I don't know what the words would be to describe, but if they can insert enough of these mind streams via the act of sex, it's so much quicker than everything else, because sex where you have orgasm is what opens you up the quickest, which connects you with God really quickly, or it connects you with other people. So we're going to be dealing with ETs. We're still not sure we even believe in ETs in this country. We don't know the assemblage of bodies. I figured out string theory. I can prove it to you. Everybody that's professional or a scientist that I show it to goes, oh, yeah, that makes total sense. Nobody rejects it. It doesn't go anyplace. Well, number one, we already know that knowledge is very controlled on this planet, and not also by the government and organizations, but energies and galactic supervision, bad ETs that supervise and make sure. But there's also a defect that we have having to do with arrogance and hierarchy. Yes, I have a university degree. Yes, I'm very bright. We know that. That was part of the point of the whole mind control program. But I'm not the kind of person that should be unraveling string theory. I mean, I have to have a grant from the government, and I have to have a degree from a certain place, and I have to deal with university types or university people, and then it would kind of appropriate for me to have decipher that. Well, that's not the way it went down, okay? That's just not the way it went down. And so we have knowledge that's parked in a corner almost, and I'm in a corner trying to get the information out. But that's actually the way it needs to be. Even this thing with Elon Musk and Doge. He brought in young people. One of them, at least, if I heard the interview correctly, left the university to come and help out and was able to do stuff that takes 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and he did it in like 1 day, 2 days. So we have to get out of this hierarchy and patriarchy, and it's not a monarchy, but it might as well be, that is controlling the kind of people that we listen to. It's already happening. This is good. This is already happening. But the whole matrix thing and the whole multidimensional, you're not going to get that information from universities. You are not going to get it, because before that poor professor is able to publish, he's going to get murdered in his sleep, especially if he did a good job. We can't have all those professors and teachers and all that knowledge just simply, swept under the rug. No, you're not going to sweep it under the rug. You're going to add to it. But they don't see it that way. They want their knowledge to be the last one. They got the grant and they got the prize and they got this, and that's the whole university system needs to be revised. We cannot have that hierarchy. You can't have a hierarchy in terms of who you're going to listen to in terms of knowledge. Information is information, and it is power. You cannot delegate it to a few. And I want to ask something, Mr. Trump. Why is the government doing all of this research on everything having to do with human beings? Why is the government doing this research? You've got the money and the grants. Why do you have that money? What do you need that money for? Well, we give it to university. Yeah, and we see how well that's gone. right? What you did was you set up people and they have their own little system set up, a caste system, and they're at the top and they know how to write those darn grants, like that one for Girl Scouts decades ago. So how can I do this that takes no time? Somebody writes it up and they get a $3 million grant. And in the this would have been this would have been in the 70s. So I strongly suggest that we stop giving grants to university professors and that the government not be in charge of research. Why is our government that we don't like to start out with? We may like Trump now, but we don't like our government. Why is it people that we don't like doing the most important research in the country, on the planet? Why? Why? There is no good reason other than control and power. As I've said before, the type of person that's good for running a country or running a company in wartime setting is somebody that has a little bit of a knowledge, military knowledge, or was in the military. But you can't put a military person in charge of a government once you have peacetime because of the intentions of the person. If you're military trained, your intention is protection. And if you have to fight to the death to protect, you do that. And to protect, if you're a government or military person, you have to go ferret out information. It's surveillance, but there's a word that I'm not finding, of course, right now. That's not the kind of person that you want handling the money that's going to be used on research having to do with what makes my kids sick. Why? Why are people in the government? Because it's not just the government, it's the military. Why is the military involved in all this research? Why? Power and control. And so the mind control program that I was in was run by the military. And I already told you, and you can look it up because he wrote a book. I never looked at the book, Dr. Colin Ross. He explained, because I was required to work with him in the 90s, because he was a specialist in military mind control victims. And he said that what the government did is they decided he said government, but it was really military. They would decide what information they wanted about humans, people, whatever. And then they would be like a pie and they would cut it in sections and they would give each section to a different university group and have them study it. And then they'd give them the money and they'd come back with the information. And then they would have all the information that they needed for this particular project, which was an entire pie, but that nobody knew really what they were studying because they only got a piece of it. He said that 92, and that's exactly the way it is. Why do they have that money? So you're taking the money away from USAID. Okay, you need to take the money away from the military. Why? It doesn't make any sense. It does make sense, but the making sense is not good. They have no reason to be studying things that have to do with my health, my happiness, spirituality. And if you put the military in charge of our relationship with ETs, you're going to get exactly what we're going to get. You're not going to get a nice enfolding because military doesn't do that because they don't trust. They're not supposed to. They're supposed to watch. They're supposed to protect. They're supposed to find out about the enemy. And everybody's the enemy. If you're military, the other country has their military and they basically are going to stay. They have to be separate. You can't hold hands with the military of another country. Doesn't make any sense. What do you have planned? What are you going to do? Well, we're in the age of Aquarius. We want to hold hands with everybody, but not if the military is in charge. So and I don't care what your reaction is to what I'm going to say next. Who's going to be in charge of that? Because I can guarantee you that the military is going to be screaming bloody murder, that they're the ones that need to be in charge. Give me a break. They can't do. You have spaceships. and somebody's going to demand that they must be in charge because they're the appropriate people and they can barely get a plane off the ground? Come on. And they're not able to get something into space other than Elon Musk. You want to put him in charge of talking to the ETs? That's great. Except, you know what? I need for him to be into technology. So don't put him in charge of that. But that's a joke, and it's not a joke. People like that you can put in charge because he's going to want to make peace with them, because he's going to want to get information that can be used for the betterment of humanity, which is what the Nazis did. You do know that the Nazis worked with ETs. You do know that, right? You know that. So what happened at the end? If they work with ETs are so powerful. Why did they lose the Nazis? Because the ETs always do that. They prime you, feed you, and you are so much more than everybody else. And then they pull the rug out from under you because they don't really want you to reach the top. But they know you want to reach the top. They know what they need to feed you for you to reach the top. They give you the information, the power to reach the top. But they don't want you to reach the top, but you don't know that. That's what happened to the Nazis. They could have taken over, but the ETs pulled their support. Did they pull their support because the Nazis started to do stuff they didn't like? No. They never intended on them reaching the top. What they want is continuous war. So if somebody really wins decisively, there's no more war. Well, we can't have that. We have to have that war. So, and what did the ETs and the Nazis do together? Apparently they gave them a lot of technological information so that when the war ended, and that's where I come in the sense of I was born in Europe right after the Second World War. My father was U.S. military, even though he was Cuban, he was U.S. military. They were over there and they got all this stuff. None of what, and I know nothing about their technology. That was not, I was born there. I was just born. But that technology and that knowledge that they worked with the government, with the Nazis, was hidden. It didn't come out in the Nuremberg trials. Nor did you find out in the Nuremberg trials that the Second World War was the first modern war that was fought with metaphysics. Oh, what's that? Ah, great. We had a world war. Who knows how many died? You don't even know the most important stuff about it. But you had people in your government that did. Back to the Matrix, which is totally and absolutely outside of our paradigm in terms of the knowledge that we're taught, but within our reality. The movie would not have moved people as much as it did if people at some level did not understand that there was something about that movie that was totally, totally true. And it was the implants. So I discovered the basis for the movie, The Matrix, the implants. The major one that I found up till now is the one from the liver, from Orion, which is the planet of rage and the devil and fire, into the back of the liver, which is the organ that handles the fire in the body, that doctors and we are all struggling to keep the fire down inside of us. Insomnia is one of the first symptoms of too much fire, and nobody's sleeping well. Then we have another one in the heart chakra. We actually have several in the heart chakra. So now on Mondays, I do a free event and I cut them, and the next week they're back again. But there's many. There's many. There's many of them. And we will only be free when we understand the connections that we have that we were not aware of, and we end those connections. And if you can just think for a second how much your connection with the person you had sex with, you were married to, you were paired off with, how much that impacted your life. how many different decisions you made, how many things you didn't do because you were connected to somebody, how your life changed once you hooked up with one other human being. Then you will, and that's voluntarily and consciously. You can imagine all the changes when you are hooked energetically through mind streams, through an implant. You're not you. Once you pair off, you're not just you. And once you also have a child, you're not just you. I'm going to say that in terms of independence, because we haven't learned better, we are all left limping when we love people. Because these mind strings can implant in other people. They do during sex, and I'm sure they do during trauma. Um, but those mind streams have 5 fingers at the end, which channel the 5 elements, but they're fingers and they're grabby. So you have a child and you want to take care of the child and you grab. You're not inserting your mind streams in that person, that kid, whatever, but you are controlling them through the mind streams. And then it turns out your kid grows up and goes off and marries, goes to another country, and you can't stop thinking about your kid and worrying about your kid and what's going on with my kid. And oh my God, I knew something was the matter. I could feel it. Of course, you have mind streams hanging on to them, which is not good for them. It's also not good for you. So, enough with that. So, I'm going to be building this. We have implants all over the place on all the organs, and we have programming in the organs, such as in my workshop where I found a couple of weeks ago, and I already said it here, that in the pancreas, there is a programming that connects the pancreas to the back of the foot, the Achilles heel. And it is, the pancreas has to do with whether you're happy or not. If you're not happy, you can get diabetes. The day you subconsciously or consciously decide you are never going to be happy, then you get pancreatitis, which can take you very quickly. So the programming that was put in the bladder that I discovered went to the back of the feet. Now, if somebody controls your Achilles heel, you can't move your foot. You can't go where you want to go or the direction you want to go in. And that was the whole point of that programming. You're not happy. So you want to go that way, because maybe that way you can be happy. But you have a programming that is controlling your feet. You're not going to move in that direction. They know a lot, these ETs that did this. And some of these programmings were done thousands of years ago, not yesterday, and not for modern society. And some of these, and so when I did the event on the pancreas and on diabetes, and I said about the heel, I said, let me see if there's a connection between the heel and diabetes. There is. But the connection, when your doctor says, oh, yes, when you have diabetes, your feet, you can end up having to amputate a foot. That's just a fact. But see, in my training, you can't accept that. Okay, that's a fact, a manifested fact on the physical dimension. Why? Because that's the way diabetes is. Diabetes affects that. Why? No, 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 no. That's just the way it is. See, in my world, the people I worked with, no, 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 no. That's not causal. So if you go to causal, the reason why it affects the feet is because of a program. So we have these mind streams, we have these implants, we have these programs, we have these ETs, and we can't see them. We're not even sure we believe in them. How are we going to get out of this mess? What does it say there? Let go of the past. We're going to have to let go of past knowledge. We have to make sure that the people that are going to be looking for the new knowledge or handling the new situations actually have the ability to do it for the highest good, not simply reinforcing what they have told other people is true, or what the school that they graduated from said is true, or what the ethics committee in their profession says that they're allowed to say. They can't. I mean, I've told you I have a friend of mine who has several PhDs, literally brilliant. She's not working in what she loves to work in. It's not allowed. If she actually worked in what she wanted to work in, which is the other dimensions of mental illness, she would lose her degrees and her standing. Not that it's an important standing, just standing on top of something that never worked, but that's okay. It's, it's a hey, in society, doctor, whatever. She can't work in what she loves because she loses everything. But maybe all those people need to lose their position and get out of the way so that we can get the information we need, so that as a society, we're not as sick, because we are sick. So what year are we in? 2025. We've deciphered the matrix. We know the human energy system. The information is there. Who has to get out of the way for this information to reach the general population, so that when it hits the general population, they will respect it? The religions aren't going to like it. And the Lord's Prayer, the original one in Aramaic, not translated to the Greek, has the mind streams in it, I believe, 3 times. And it talks about letting go of the strings and knots, especially having to do with other people's bad behavior. And I was looking for the words and I wasn't able to find it. I should have looked earlier. So let's go ahead and do. Wow, I've talked too much as usual. Let's go ahead and do 7 minutes of. I did this morning, and everybody. There were several people who actually vomited. Remember, I do it online, but there were like 350, 400 people, and several of them vomited with this mantra, which is, even though I hate everybody and everything, and there's nothing I can do, I love and accept myself. So let's do that one. It's powerful because of the level and volume of anger that we have that we're not able to express. Okay. Give me a second. I'm just going to do even though I hate. And you know how many people say to me, but I don't hate. Yeah, I know. You don't feel the hate because your hatred is in your liver. You have cancer or had a cancer scare. You have there. Have you had a stroke, or your doctors think you might have a stroke if you're not careful with the blood pressure? That's too much fire. That's hate. Did it start out as hate? No, it started out as too much of the fire element. But too much of the fire element has characteristics at the different levels. And at the highest level, it's suicide or murder. Take your pick. Okay, and so we're going to put up the sensory therapy video, which has the water and the ice, because ice and water plus earth puts out fire. Okay? The mantras are repeated in silence. You do not move your mouth with the words. Both of your feet are on the ground. And if a part of your body hurts, breathe into that area. You can actually even tap that area, whatever part of your body it might be. I found the Lord's Prayer on my website. What a coincidence. Okay, I'm going to read to you very quickly the Lord's Prayer as we have been taught. I did not invent this, I didn't come up with it. All of you know that this is what we've been taught to repeat. This is what it is. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation. And the most important line, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. Okay? That's the Lord's Prayer that we have been taught, that we repeat. This is the Lord's Prayer in the original Aramaic that went from Aramaic to English rather than Aramaic, Greek to English. Listen to it, and I will stop and read twice the lines that have to do with string theory. Now, there's several versions of the Lord's Prayer from Aramaic because Aramaic is a language with a lot of meaning. Each word can have several, so you're going to find different ones, but they basically all say the same thing, including, and you can add to that, the Pope Francis's favorite prayer to the Virgin Undoer of Knots, where practically every line has the strings to it. But let me read to you out loud, and I put the link there in the chat to this page I'm reading. O breathing light, your name shines everywhere. Release a space to plant your presence here. Envision your I can now, embody your desire in every light and form. Grow through us this moment's bread and wisdom. And here we go. First time, untie the knots of failure binding us. That's the big issue with the strings, that they knot up. Untie the knots of failure that bind us. Continuing, as we release the strands, there's the string again, we hold of others' faults. Help us not forget our source, yet free us from not being in the present. Now, that line, free us from not being in the present, is the line where what we were taught was deliver us from evil. That's not what the Lord's Prayer was. The Lord's Prayer was free us from not being in the present, which means help us to not disassociate, which is, and in therapy, they know that when you disassociate, all sorts of things happen. Okay? So, and the last two lines, from you arises every vision, song, and prayer, power and song from gathering to gathering. Amen. May our future actions grow from here. So here we have 3 times in the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic where they're referring to the strings. And nobody knows about the strings except the string theorist who would never speak to somebody like me because it's too simple. We can't have it that simple because then you can't have all these organizations and multiple hierarchy and control. When it's that simple, the power is within each individual, which is exactly what I think God wanted for us. That's how we were made. We create reality from our center. We extend 72,000 strings outward. They use the elements, and you create at least 144 dimensions. We can't do that. This is not good. All those people, all those individual people with that power? No, 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 no. Let's keep it at the top so we can't let people know how they're constructed, how they're built, what they're capable of. And this whole thing with superpowers, please. All those mythological figures were just mythology. You got to learn about them, but it's just mythology. No, it was true. It's part of history. But it's not compatible with what the people that want to keep us small and victimized, they don't want us to know that. Because if they let us know that, we go, well, but if those were human beings and they can be 7 feet tall and they can have a third eye and know everything, why can't we? Well, yeah, we can. But no, but they didn't exist, so therefore we can't. Anyway, I've talked a lot. Thank you for joining me, and we will see you again. And I put the link there. It's right here. And yes, my website has a ton of issues. I have a ton of issues every place because many people that know an awful lot do not want my information out there. So just when you see all the issues my website has and everything that I do and all the mistakes and everything, What you need to do is say, please, God, help us with our intention.